Hey, this is Willie. On this one, we're going to be checking the crankshaft and camshaft end play on this because this thing has a knock and we got to fix it. So make sure you stay tuned. Hang on. It's fixed. It's not knocking anymore. Okay, I've already taken the liberty of taking the hood off. One thing we're going to have to fix on the hood is this hinge that broke. It was broken when I got it. I welded it and it broke again. Gonna have to weld that back on. So I already unhooked my wires to the lights and the PTO and unbolted the hood. That was 9/16. We gotta get the engine out of here so we can fix all the end play issues, because at steady RPM this has a really loud knock. You can actually feel through the frame on the machine, which I'm pretty sure is going to be the camshaft on this one since it's a helical cut. So I guess I'll show you how to get this thing apart. Now with this one, all we have to do to get the electronics out of our way is we're going to unhook the battery wires. We're going to hook the stator wires off of the voltage regulator, and we should be able to unhook the starter and everything and just set that on in place of the battery. I'll take the battery off and just set this all right there. Okay, I just took those two 3/8 bolts out, and you got to be careful because there are some spacers back here. There's two of them. I'm holding one with my finger on this side. And there's the two wires. Oh, I just had one spacer drop. I gotta grab that. Those are the two wires for the stator you're gonna have to unhook, and then I'll set this all off to the side. Okay, your ground wire location is gonna vary. I just want to get that off and out of my way. You can see that all gives me some clearance. I gotta unhook my ignition and my throttle cables next. Okay, this was already running out of fuel off camera, so I don't have to worry about draining any of that. And make sure you're very careful you don't lose these clips, because they can go missing real easy. So that'd be the choke, and then the throttle one is right here. Put those in all the hardware. That should come off. Get that out of my way. I think I'm going to grab some zip ties and zip tie these out of my way. I might also take my gas tank out since it's not hard to reach up in here. As a matter of fact, I think I'll just do that right now. I'll take this gas tank out. Get this out of my way. Okay, it's a little bit tight in here, but you have to get this out of your way. Then you can pick this tank up and fish the line up through. You might have to take your fuel line off. It's got a 90-degree that just barely clears that hole. Then you can fish your fuel line up and out, and then it'll pull out the top. That gives me a little more room in here, and then I can get that coupler a little easier from on top instead of the bottom. Okay, I have my cables up out of my way with a zip tie. Putting all my hardware up here. Now I just need to grab a pry bar and a 9/16 and get that coupler unhooked. Then we can start unhooking the engine mount bolts. Okay, I unthreaded the bolt all the way on one side, and then I put it in 2 threads, turned it, and then I undid the other bolt, and then now I can take these all the way out. That way, if you take one bolt all the way out, you can't spin it as easy and then hold it with the pry bar to loosen up the bolt with the nut, or with the wrench. Okay, this is how the bolts are on here. There's a fiber disc that goes on the rounded side of these 2 washers, and then this is the spacer that goes to the engine side of the coupler. So you can set these aside, make sure you don't lose any of those. Now our coupler is free, and another wire in here is make sure you don't have any excessive play in forward or backwards on the machine or up and down on the bearing of your beveled gearbox, which this one is pretty tight. I don't have to worry about the bearing for the input shaft on this one. Now I can drain the oil on this one, and then I'll start showing you where all the engine mount bolts are at. My drain plug is located underneath. Some of them have them on the side. That'll vary depending on the tractor. You can see one engine mount bolt here, one there, and the same on the other side. They're 9/16, and I should be able to fish from on top. I might need a long extension to get down on top of them, but yeah, we'll get them off. Okay, I got all my bolts out and put all the washers and lock washers together so they don't get lost. That's going to go in there. This is your lift point if you have a lift. You can grab it there. I am just going to grab it by this exhaust bracket and underneath the blower shroud and lift it up out. It is officially loose at this point. So we can get it out and set it down. Once you get your engine out, it's a good idea to take a scraper and clean any of this dirt, grime that would be in here. This one's not too dirty, but some of them can get pretty grungy up under there. So now's a good time to clean all that out. And you can, anything out of your way, or you can need to zip tie something, or get a container for bolts, or cover this up so nothing gets water in it. I think I'm going to take my air filter and set this inside so that doesn't get any rainwater on it. Set that in a safe spot. I don't think that's going to get hurt by any rain. I'm going to take this over to the workbench. I took a blowgun, some compressed air, and blew off as much dirt as I could. You can see there's still some oil residue left behind. Not too worried about that, but as long as I get the majority of the dirt off of this before I open it up, the less dirt I can get in the engine, the better. So I got to get this blower cover off, because in order to get at the camshaft pin, we have to get the bearing plate off on the flywheel side of the engine. So to kind of save on having to take a bunch of stuff apart, I'm going to leave this ignition coil right here and not unbolt that half. Just going to unbolt this side and just take the rest of the bolts out of the blower cover and the screen. We'll get this all off and out of the way, and we'll finish cleaning the... Now I got to get the flywheel off, and then I can finish cleaning the dirt off of it. Okay, just to save some time and not having to take this coupler off, I got the flywheel nut off, and I set my my ball peen hammer right on the crankshaft. There's a little center hole. And then I took my bigger hammer and hit that, and then I also had my pry bar wedged in behind the flywheel right here to put tension on it. So when you have the pry bar back here holding tension, and you tap the crankshaft, the flywheel comes right loose. Just be careful when you take that off, you don't lose the key. Okay, I'm not sure how good you're going to see that. We have an old AMES or Ames gauge here. Let me see if I can get some better light on this. Maybe. Oh, I suppose that's a little bit better. I zeroed out the meter. You'll notice that the pivot point here is about the same distance from that ball to where the meter hooks up. So right now I'm trying to see if there's any end play in the camshaft, and then I'll eventually do the crankshaft. So if I pull this all the way back one way, pinch in here, I got 0. If I pinch it the other way, we'll see what our end play is for our camshaft. It looks like we're about 2 thousandths. I'm sorry. So you can see I can get it to 0. About 1.5. So I have good clearance on the camshaft. So now I gotta figure out why this thing is making a knocking noise. We're gonna have to test the crankshaft end play. We might need to change the gasket thickness for the bearing plate. So let me get this moved over there, and we'll check the crankshaft end play. Okay, I'm clamped back tight. I'm zeroed out. I'm going to be careful not to hit the tool. If I can tap this crankshaft all the way in, and I'm at 0. So I should be able to lightly tap this other end of the crankshaft and see how much this moves. Okay, I can just barely push this on this other end to 5 thousandths, and then on this side when I go to push it back, it goes just below 0. So I got 5 thousandths end play, which should be good. So I haven't found out what's making the noise yet. Might have to call up the engine shop and ask him what his thoughts might be, but so far the crankshaft and the cam gear end plays are good, but this thing still makes a noise at steady RPM. So let's delve into it a little bit deeper and see what we find. Okay, got the pan off. I still got to clean some of the debris off later, but what I'm checking on this rod is I want to check for any side-to-side movement. I'm not worried about that direction. I'm mainly worried about this direction and up and down. And I also don't want this to twist, which I don't have a second hand to hold, but I'm just making sure this connecting rod doesn't twist separate from the crankshaft, which this one does not turn on the crankshaft at all. This is nice and tight, so the rod is staying perpendicular with the crankshaft like it's supposed to, and even when I try rocking the crankshaft back and forth, I don't see any play in the rod. The connecting rod was brand new when I had the engine rebuilt, and you'll see there's no timing gears in here to make any noise. I have Kirk Engine's weight to balance the engine out. That's not loose. The kind of sound I'm hearing when this thing is running sounds a lot like the gears right here. Let me see if I can get it. That kind of sound. That's kind of what I'll hear while the engine is running. But I don't think that would be my noise, because there should be plenty of oil taking up that slack, and I don't see any issues with the teeth on here. It could be, but I don't think that's what it is. So I'm gonna clean the sump out because there is some nail debris from the break-in. And then I'll, when I get it all back together, we'll check the piston, make sure the piston doesn't have any slap in it. We'll check the condition of the cylinder and see we can't see the rings without having to take it all apart. So we're just going to take a visual look at it. But yeah, my end play here is good. My end play here is good. The connecting rod doesn't have any play in it. So I'm not seeing any issues as of right now. I already know my valves are going to be good because this had a valve job when it was rebuilt. I'm not going to take that all apart because I don't have a whole lot of those valve cover gaskets. And I had fixed that once before. I had readjusted that when I had what I thought was a valve leak, but it was actually the head got a crack in it after the rebuild. This engine, as for history, when I first got it, this whole thing was packed with dirt. And it got so hot that the exhaust spring actually collapsed under the heat. And that's why I needed a rebuild. It was just overheated so bad that, so when we finally got it back together and running and rebuilt, the head developed a crack from being overheated so bad. So this is actually a replacement head that I got used. So I have plenty of extra head gaskets. We can pop this head off and check what the piston looks like and make sure that's all copacetic, and then we'll just put it back together and just say didn't find any issues and nothing is detrimental. And I can have confidence in putting this back in the machine and not have to worry about this, and probably check the driveline on the tractor to see if there might be anything that could be loose. I mean, and one other thing I saw here was this discoloration on this flywheel here. You'll see like this black staining all the way around. That's got me a little bit concerned. So I could be hearing the flywheel rattle around on that keyway. I've heard of that happening. I haven't seen it, but we're going to take some valve lapping compound and we're going to clean this all up and make sure that flywheel seats really good so that flywheel doesn't have any kind of rattle back and forth. Okay, I like to put rags in so I don't get any dirt into any internal surfaces. This is also soaking up all the excess oil. I like to use a wood chisel. This is like from Harbor Freight. I like to use the wood chisels to scrape off the old gaskets, and then a lint-free shop rags to clean the junk off of the surfaces and any kind of oil residue. You want to make sure your bolt slots are all cleaned out because I've had oil go in there and you don't want that oil to come out and cause any gasket issues. And I like to put RTV on this pan because these can get a little bit dimpled and cause leaks. So I'll get some RTV and some new gaskets and we'll start putting this back together and set it down. Then we'll take a look at the cylinder and the piston, see what that looks like, and see if there's any issues in there. Okay, make sure you got your pan the correct direction. You might want to mark it or something like that. I got my bolts in, my new gasket on both spots. As for getting this cover off the top, it's just two bolts you loosen up, and then you can slide this cover off the top because it is slotted on both sides. Looking at the head, I can tell we had probably a lean condition because we got brown soot in here, which is not normal. You can also see how the exhaust valve is brown. That usually suggests something was lean or getting really, really hot. Looking at the cylinder, I don't know how good you're going to see. There's some honing lines towards the top, and as pretty much any typical Kohler, there's always some scores on the bottom of the cylinders, just because it's short rod engine. They tend to have a lot of lower cylinder thrusting as the rod comes up at an angle. I can feel some of these lines with my fingernail, which I'm kind of surprised, but nothing I can really do about it. I can't really check the skirt clearance, but when I bring it up to TDC, I can't really see any egg shape in the piston. I can see even spacing all the way around. I can't see what the ring gap looks like, so it's not excessively loose. Like, I can rock it, but it's only going back and forth maybe 10-15 thousandths. But the skirt in the bottom is where it's supposed to be tight. The crown usually has some clearance in it, so I don't think there's any problems here. I can't really rattle it too bad, so I'm not too worried about that. But we might need to run a better quality air filter on here, or maybe run it on a higher octane fuel. I don't think this likes 87. And that could be what the noise was, is maybe it was some pinging. So medium load could be not sucking as much fuel and running lean. I don't know. Okay, I got the head back on. The torque for the bolts is between 25 foot-pounds and 30 foot-pounds. And you're going to have to leave these bolts loose in the head, these little 3/8, and slide this on. We got to put the flywheel and blow cover on, tighten these down before we can tighten that down and adjust our gap there. So we kind of got to put it all together first. Okay, I just put some valve grinding compound on the taper. I'm going to put the flywheel on. Magnets are going to pull it in good and tight. I'll put some pressure on it. I'm going to put a wrench on the PTO side of the engine, or the crankshaft, to keep it from spinning, and I'm just going to rotate this flywheel a couple dozen times to mate these two surfaces so they will stick together properly and not have any slippage issues in the future. Okay, you can see all that black discoloration is now gone. We're bedded back in. I cleaned all the compound off. I can now put my key on, my flywheel on, my blower shield, and tighten everything back up, and then this can go back onto the tractor. Okay, so we got that bolt in, this bolt with the choke bracket. And we got this one in, and this one with the hose clamp for the wire. Now I can tighten down this 3/8 and this 3/8 since everything's now situated. Okay, I got the engine set on the frame. The bolts are just slotted into the holes. They're not tightened up yet. And then I have these spacers right here, loose. Now, I kept these thicker washers out. I'm going to use this washer sort of as a feeler gauge to make sure our engine is spaced forward and backwards even, as well as left and right, in case we have to twist it. And I can use these washers, because they're going to go in here, sort of as a feeler gauge. You don't want any slack on either side of these. So I've been checking this all nice and thoroughly. So that fits without any nothing loose on both sides. So now I can take these bolts out and stick my washers in. There's going to be two washers, and there's a rounded side and a flat side. So the rounded side is going to be in contact with this fiber disc, and then the flat side is going to go up against the bushing on one side, and then on the other side, the lock washer is going to go on the flat side, because there's a sharp edge on one side of these washers that can cut into the fiber disc and cause damage. So that's why you put the rounded edge up against it. And you can kind of see the witness marks of the bushing and or lock collar. You can see how it's flat on there, and whatever, you get the idea. But yeah, I got my spacing set so I can lock my engine bolts down, and then I can start connecting up the coupler. But like I said earlier, I wanted to run this engine before I hook this coupler up, so to see if there's any knocking noises. I also got filled up with oil, so I'm gonna just tighten these bolts down, and we'll test run it and see if there's any noises or anything like that, and then we'll hook this back up and see if the noises come back, or if they're all fixed. Go from there. Okay, I got my ground hooked up, and I'm just gonna pull this electronic, well, all the wiring, and gonna pull this whole harness and everything and bolt it in place. I'm gonna make sure I don't forget my spacers that go behind the plate, and these just need to be snug. They don't have to be super tight. So. I just added some octane booster too. We'll see if that gets rid of that knock after a few minutes. Oh, it's not an octane issue. It's still running the same. I can still hear that knocking noise. Okay, I had to take a bit of a walk away from this and do some research. Let me give you an example of where we're at now. We know the crankshaft end play is good. We know the camshaft end play is good. There was some slack in the cam gears just from the age of the engine. The timing gears, or I'm sorry, not the timing gears. The balance gears are taken out, so they aren't making the noise. We know the rod is good and tight. We know the piston is new and tight. There's no ring gap issues there. Cylinder looked okay with exception of some scoring that catches a nail at the bottom of the cylinder, which these are short rod engines. That's kind of typically normal. But nothing is coming apart on this engine, and it still has that knock. We know it's not a octane issue. So I went on YouTube and was looking for knock videos, and I found a guy that had redid a Power King tractor, and he had actually mentioned that that's slack in those timing gears, just from age, can cause pre-ignition knock. This sounds like a pre-ignition knock. The cylinder is brown, suggesting either a lack of octane or pre-ignition. I also had a cracked head at one time. It could have been secondary damage. I don't know. But I closed the ignition points gap to 12 thousandths, and now the noise is gone. If it's not gone, at least 80% of it is fixed. So let me get this thing started back up and warmed up, and I'll let you hear it. It's fixed. It's not knocking anymore. Fixed. We had to eliminate all other possibilities and then find a new possibility, and then finally eliminated that. So yeah, close the points from 20 thousandths to 12 thousandths. That retarded my ignition. The reason it retards ignition when you close the gap is because when they close, it builds a magnetic field on the coil, and then when they open, it collapses the field, or vice versa. It collapses the field when they're closed, and then it opens again, and that triggers a spark. Either way, it's when the points open, it triggers a spark. So the less gap, the later they open, and it retards the spark, and that fixed it. So hopefully that helps the next person, at least gives you an idea on how to troubleshoot things. I just got to fix the hood on this. I'm going to take my wheels off the back and take my weights off the front and get this thing all buttoned back up. Sorry I couldn't get it on camera, but I did weld all this, and I put it all back together. I don't think this is going to break. There's a couple spots that burned through. I knocked all the welder slag off of it to make sure there's no holes in it this time. There's still a crack towards the front a little bit, but I can't really get in there very easily to weld it. I can't weld it while it's on the tractor because it would hurt the regulator, but I don't think that's going to go anywhere. I had to make some clearance for the PTO pulley because it moved the hood back a little bit. Yeah, no big deal. Well, there it is. Everything's all fixed on it. All the implements are mounted onto it. I got the sublower hitch and the manual lift, so if there's any electric actuator issues, you can still put the strong arm lift on it. Or if you want to move it to another tractor, it's an option. Got it all fixed now. I'm going to put it up for sale. I'm going to hopefully find a nicer tiller than this one because the tines are in really rough shape on this one. And I like a nicer tiller for my nicer tractor as well. So yeah, there it is. If you like the video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. And as always, thanks for watching and have a good day. Bye.